点火をお願いします。今、聖火皿へ聖火が点火されました。今、トーチに聖火が点火されました。1年の時を経てトーチに聖火が灯りました。日本全国の多くの方がさまざまな思いでこの聖火の光を見つめていく。
And the International Olympic Committee was sending letters to national Olympic committees soliciting bids to host the 32nd running of the Summer Olympic Games. This moment marked the start of a decade-long process of planning and preparation, all leading up to a mere 16 days of international sporting competition. Step 2 was this. 1 month later, the governor of Tokyo, Japan, announced his city's intention to submit a bid, in large part to mark their recovery from the massive 20,000-death earthquake that had devastated the country mere months before. Soon enough, Madrid, Istanbul, Baku, and Doha each submitted bids as well, but in the end, after a 2-year evaluation process, a contract was signed between the International Olympic Committee, the Japanese Olympic Committee, and the city of Tokyo in September 2013. Tokyo would host the 2020 Summer Olympic Games. To complete this task, Tokyo was given this: the host city contract operational requirements document. Across its 273 pages, this outlines in incredible detail what the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, requires from its contractual partner, Tokyo, in order to complete the Olympics successfully and, crucially, consistently with all past and future games. It's essentially the Bible for Olympic organizers. The 2015 edition, made for the 2020 Games, now being held in 2021, outlines some absolutely minuscule details. For example, Tokyo had to install weather stations at the sites of all outdoor competition venues 3 years prior to the start of the Games in order to collect long-term data to be used by the IOC to inform their scheduling of events. The document also establishes some basic but far-reaching guidelines, such as the fact that the Olympics will last 16 days, except for a certain number of preliminary competitions that, subject to IOC approval, can be held prior to the opening ceremony. It also, in a matter of mere paragraphs, outlines massive asks, such as the necessity for Tokyo to book 41,177 hotel rooms for the media, marketing partners, future host city representatives, IOC executives, National Olympic Committee representatives, International Sport Federation representatives, and more. This is equivalent to close to half of all of Tokyo's hotel rooms, and it only represents the accommodation requirements for those actually running the games, not those competing or spectating. The hotel capacity crunch was such an issue, in fact, that prior to the prohibition of international spectators due to the coronavirus pandemic, the city had planned to dock cruise ships in Tokyo Bay to serve as additional temporary hotels. Athletes, however, do not stay in hotels. Since the 1932 Los Angeles Games, each host city constructs a dedicated Olympics village to house athletes, far away from the crowds of fans and hordes of media. Requirements dictated that it must have the capacity for 16,000 people, so it operates at the scale of a small town. The requirements also dictate that rooms must be at least 97 square feet or 9 meters in size, or 129 square feet or 12 meters with double rooms, and even outline their required contents. In addition, the village must have an Olympics merchandise store, a bank, photo store, hair salon, florist, dry cleaning shop, travel agent, post office, and more. Typically, McDonald's also sets up a temporary restaurant in the village for the games, which is like any McDonald's except that its menu has no prices. The company provides athletes with food for free in exchange for the publicity it inevitably attracts. Lastly, according to the operational requirements document, the village even must have a designated place of mourning. Cases like that of Sydney, which redeveloped its Olympics park into a true neighborhood. It's now home to upscale hotels, restaurants, and housing complexes, and hosts nearly 6,000 events, both large and small, each year. Altogether, having seen the horror stories, the Olympics are becoming less attractive for cities. In decades past, Plenty of cities would bid to host each Olympics, but now there are situations like Paris 2024 or Los Angeles 2028 where cities are awarded the games effectively by default, having faced zero competition in the bidding process. For those that do host the games, though, cost consciousness has increased dramatically, and they're now trying to craft their venue strategy closer to that of Sydney. Therefore, they released this document. It outlines the core of their development strategy. They want to create not only effective venues, but an appealing neighborhood, certainly following the model of Sydney 2000, so that they can consider any money spent an investment rather than a cost. With each of these new venues, such as the new Olympic Aquatic Center for example, they've published a detailed post-games plan. Through redeveloping the venue into both a long-term competition venue and a community recreation center, the Bureau believes they can attract 1 million visitors per year after the games, and while they project the facility to run at a loss, it's one small enough to be comparable with other similar public recreation centers created outside of the context of the Olympics. Some of the other venues, such as the Ariake Arena, to be used for volleyball, are expected to turn a profit after the games, so altogether, if projections are accurate, these new venues won't be a long-term financial burden to the city and its taxpayers. Now, of course, like with anything regarding the Olympics, each of the 42 venues need to follow a sprawling set of strict standards. For example, they each need to have the Olympics flag and respective International Sporting Federation flag flying in a conspicuous spot. They need to have a full backup power system for all broadcast, media, technology, sport, and security operations, while their lighting systems must be split into 2 sections with independent power supplies for each so that events can go on even through power failure. In terms of the actual sporting facilities, however, these are each subject to the standards of the respective IOC-recognized International Sports Federation. For example, Olympic rowing is managed by the International Rowing Federation, which recommends 531 feet or 162 meters of course width, and requires 2,162 meters or 7,126 feet of length. Their standards get plenty more specific though. They specify the intricacies of the course buoy system, outline where advertising banners can go, detail the location, construction, and operation of timing huts, and much, much more. While typically it has some 166 employees, this balloons up to 8,100 during the games, mostly comprised of the operational staff filming and producing the television feeds. Its ultimate task in Tokyo is to create 9,500 hours of content, more than with any prior Olympic Games. To accomplish this, it has deployed some 1,049 cameras and 3,600 microphones across Tokyo's 42 venues. These are cut together into produced world feeds in dedicated broadcast compounds at each venue before being delivered to here, the International Broadcast Center. From 1 month before the games until its conclusion, this is a 24/7 operation and, much like the Olympics Village, operates like a small town with restaurants, coffee shops, bars, a medical center, bank, convenience store, dry cleaners, and even a massage room. One of OBS's main functions is essentially as a landlord. They manage the International Broadcast Center and rent out space to different broadcasters to serve as their workspaces. A private office in the center comes in units of 270 square feet or 25 square meters, and in the case of Tokyo, costs some $5,011 per unit for the duration of the games. Of course, though, there are plenty of upcharges. Even once a broadcaster is paid to rent a space, 2 normal wall plugs will cost them $876, and the OBS rate card even includes the option to purchase a power strip for $27. Meanwhile, getting a dedicated 100 megabit per second Ethernet plug to provide more stable internet than the free Wi-Fi costs broadcasters $19,044. OBS also sells broadcasters a digital data feed, giving real-time access to results, schedules, medals, records, news, biographies, statistics, and more. This is what ultimately gets repackaged into, for example, the real-time results you'll see on the NBC or the BBC websites. Finally, OBS's rate card includes options to outfit a broadcaster's private office with a walkie-talkie for $438, small folding table for $67, microwave for $105, and electric kettle for $23. The goal is consistency, and therefore the task, while enormous, is strictly prescribed. That doesn't mean it's straightforward, though. Every page of this document represents an incredible amount of work. A single line might become an individual's job for years. And then actually putting that together, combining the tasks as small as placing the right flag in a venue with those as large as building an entirely new stadium, is what makes for a truly successful and impressive event. As anyone knows by now, the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games are actually happening in 2021. Of course, taking one of the world's largest events and postponing it by a year mere months before, after a decade of preparation, is an incredible feat.